Leicester City in there as well, Martin. And I know you have more than a soft spot for that football club, Leicester City, trying to ply their trade in the top flight. But life is difficult at the moment for Leicester City, beaten at the weekend 4-1 by Brentford, no less. And now have turned their attentions to a new manager, having sacked Steve, of course, in recent days. And now they turn their attention to Ruud van Nistelrooy. Something of a surprise, you might think. Van Nistelrooy with no managerial experience, other than a couple of games in charge on an interim basis of Manchester United. Now, Van Nistelrooy takes a job, and just as he takes a job, he was talking about aligning his philosophy with a previous Leicester manager, one Enzo Maresca.
A lot of principles and structures that I see in on the ball and off the ball are structures that I used myself a lot as a PSV manager and at United. Not all, of course, but many of them. And the way Leicester City played under Maresca, winning the championship, going into the Premier League, I see also that line continuing in those structures. And an idea of play, and I can plug into that because I relate to those structures and way of play forward and create chances, of course, is the main goal, and translate it into points. And sometimes we'll be against an opponent that is better, but we have to find a way to win any game. And sometimes you need to be more defensive and play on the counter-attack. And of course, when you have it, you play. And others you will try to dominate, and you have to make the game yourself. So we'll approach every game with one idea, and that's to win.
So Steve Cooper has gone, Simon. I liked him. That's by the by. Mm-hmm. In comes Van Nistelrooy, and he says he's plugging into the philosophy and style of Enzo Maresca. Yeah. And when you were listening to that there, you gave your own view, which we can't really broadcast.
I think it's admirable that he spent an inordinate amount of time getting all the games from last season and ploughing through them to evaluate how Leicester played last season in the Championship, so that he could prepare himself for the opportunity to manage Leicester City, which probably would never have landed his way if he hadn't managed Man United for 4 games, 2 of them against Leicester City. So I don't think there's been much inspiration in the appointment. I think it's a Johnny-come-lately opportunity for him. Now, we'll see. He did okay in Holland. We don't know. He picked up what was a very demoralised, disheartened, dysfunctional Man United side and prepared them for 4 games that they did okay in. Leicester are abject, and they got made to look abject twice by Manchester United in games. Ironically, the team that he's now going to manage. And the other 2 games, he drew and he won a game. And all of those games were infinitely opportunities for him to achieve him. And taking away from the Ten Hag legacy of what was going on there, disenfranchisation with the fans, the board, the owners, whatever else, he had a 4-game bump. It's got him a Leicester City job. I think there's a calculated risk in there. They're calculating that ultimately the Van Nistelrooy effect of his presence, his profile, everything that goes with it, and hopefully his football intelligence will give them the opportunity to get away from whatever problems they thought they were about to have. Yeah. But about staying in this division. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about him. I don't know enough about what he is and what he isn't, and I certainly wouldn't base the appointment of a Premier League position on 4 games at Manchester United.
Well, see, I'm with Simon on that one. Of course, we know, both of us know, of course, that he managed PSV. He comes in here now. It's more than just a punt, isn't it? Is it a calculated risk, though, Martin?
Well, isn't every managerial appointment a calculated risk until the manager either proves or disproves him, or they
some
think
more than others,
correct.
Martin, you think?
Well, he hasn't. I don't know whether Leicester have checked up what happened at PSV, but I think looks on the face of it as if here's an opportunity, because he had galvanised, as Simon said, a dispirited Manchester United side for a number of games. I think that's relatively easy for an interim manager to come in and do okay in that time. Van Nistelrooy is a footballer, if you're asking him to go and play centre forward, you take him immediately.
Yes,
if that was the case. It is a risk at this stage. There's no question about it. But you can talk. He was talking about getting advice from Maresca and such things like this here, and his philosophies and structures align with Maresca. I'm not. Maresca took a team out of the Championship into the Premier League. And that is fine. That's still difficult to do, although you have advantages with monies and stuff like this here. But overall, the picture is this year. He's now taking over a side that is dispirited. Leicester are dispirited, and they're not, with respect, to my former club, not very good. And the players, regardless of what sort of impact you can make, you have to try and turn players around who have found it very, very difficult this season to compete. And they're just up. I don't know what the strengths of the side. I've only seen them play once live. I've watched them on TV, but the once live against Nottingham Forest, where they competed in the first half and then and lost it immediately after half time when Forest scored.
It's a punt. I mean, he wasn't the first choice. He wasn't the manager that they wanted. They wanted Potter, and for whatever reason, he wants to play hide and seek with himself. For whatever reason that people can't fathom, whether it's because he's got some commercial relationship with Chelsea which prohibits him from taking another job, I suspect it's not, or whether he thinks that job isn't the right one for him because the Leicester City players spend more time talking to the owner than they do following instructions from the manager. Maybe that's part of the reasons why Potter didn't want it.
But 12 games in, did they need to pivot, Leicester?
Well, I don't necessarily think so, but I've not made a case study of watching Leicester City in every single game. I know that Leicester City fans have been disillusioned with the performances from Steve Cooper, yet they remain out of the bottom three. Now, I know that if ultimately moments in time are not going to be reflective of the way things go forward, if you can see a decline, you may need to arrest it. But going 12 games into a season with a manager suggests that the decision-making process in the first place was flawed, because you weren't baking in all the thinking about what the style of the team was, which I think is crap, by the way. When you get into a Premier League, you win football matches however you can win, and then you build and you buy better players, and then you play the way you want to play. That's what I think you should do. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where apparently you've got to win in a certain way, because if you don't win in that certain way, then that's not appealing to people. Much better to be playing crew in the Championship with a brand of football than Man United in the Premier League.
Yeah,
I disagree with that.
Yeah. Should Leicester fans, how should they feel about Van Nistelrooy coming in at this stage, Martin?
I don't know if the Leicester fans were disillusioned with Steve Cooper, then I suppose an appointment like Van Nistelrooy, at least he's got a name, big name, but they'll be looking the same as us in the manner of saying let's see how he gets on, and I'm sure he will have an impact, and he's got a bit of personality. So,
what is a Ruud van Nistelrooy? What is a Ruud van Nistelrooy? Ask a Leicester fan what a Ruud van Nistelrooy is as a manager, and I'm willing to wager you that en masse they won't know, because he doesn't have an identity as a manager.
Sean sends in a message saying he does know. Ruud van Nistelrooy's coached under-17s, under-19s. He then coached the Dutch national side along Gus Hiddink. He coached PSV. He won silverware at PSV.
But he's managing now. He's managing a team now.
He hasn't been in a relegation battle.
No, that's true. But then neither had Roy Keane when he took over managing Sunderland and got them promoted that season. All about effective management doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to be experience. I think you can't borrow, or pretend to have experience. We all know that. But sometimes you get the momentum from sheer bloody-minded, single-minded thinking. I don't think that's the reason why you don't employ him. But if Leicester fans are looking at Ruud van Nistelrooy and thinking he's a solution, what's the question you're asking? And then match it to the reality of what Ruud van Nistelrooy is, and nobody knows what he is, unless they've spent a lot of their time, which of course they will have done for the purpose of this conversation, watching Dutch football.
Yeah,
which they haven't done.
He watched the Brentford game, and he watched Brentford beat his Leicester City side 4-1 from the stands, Martin. But would you expect something of a new manager bounce from those Leicester players?
Well, they took the lead in the game, and then they were pegged back pretty quickly, and well and truly beaten at the end. That I don't know. Doesn't always happen that a new manager comes in and there's an immediate bounce. You know, he might have to go through a winless period of a number of matches before he finds out about the team, and he will find as much as he can about the side between now and Christmas time. I think that the idea that Leicester City have made this change is to give him this opportunity, because if they are going to try and strengthen the side in January time, at least he will have an input into the signings, if indeed that's what they're going to do.
But the interesting thing is who gets any points at Brentford anyway? This is the team that sits on top of the form league for home wins beyond everybody. They have got the best home record in the Premier League, and they're a very good side. And so for Leicester, it's an unfortunate situation that you might want to get a bounce, but you might want to get a bounce against opposition that actually gives you a chance to have that bounce as well, which Brentford don't at home.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.